We're glad that you chose to be with us today. As usual, you will get a YouTube link and a survey by email after the meeting. The PARS staff joining us today are Lynn Smith, he's right up here, Community Prevention Consultant, Lisa Boyle, and I'm Judy Wilson, Office Manager and National Night Out Program Coordinator. So please contact any of us, and we'll be glad to be of assistance to you in any way we can. There is a yellow form in the center of your table. If you would please take a moment to sign in. And also you have a survey on your table. So if you would complete that before the meeting's over and leave it for me, I would appreciate it. The agenda today is published for your information. And today we have a champion of character. It's Tammy Rassilin Brazilian. Okay, I knew I wouldn't get that right. Okay, we're glad to have her here. And I would like for Chief Wheelis to come up and also Sheriff Hill. Tammy, would you come forward?
Congratulations. We're going to read a little bit, and then we're going to probably prov a little bit. So Tammy and I got a skit worked out. So we're going to go right into that. Kansas Character Recognition Council of our nation on the health and safety. Enough of a thing. While she was parked at the money, he hopped on a micro group call with, I love this. How you were doing the whole thing. Tammy saw a dog, saw a woman walking on the ice. Someone tried to back. He offered to walking ugly, pulled the water. He pulled the woman in the dog. Passion to, I think, go ahead and give her a round of applause. I think the great things that go with this story are he was aware, follows, had the courage to fall, call somebody, fellow citizen, press, and that's a rare commodity. Sheriff and I, it's our pleasure to be here with you. I want you to know that we really appreciate this appreciation, not only from the police department and the sheriff's office, but it also comes from great. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, Tammy, and congratulations. At each meeting, we do try to recognize a champion of character. So you'll see a form on your table, the red brochure. If you would like to nominate a person exhibiting good character that has significantly improved the health, safety, or quality of life of the community, any of the 49 different qualities can be considered for a champion of character. Anyone in Shawnee County can be nominated by completing the form and emailing it to jwilson@safestreets.org. The nomination form can also be found on the PARS website, which is parstopeka.org. We did not have a meeting in January, and of course, you know, we had the snowstorm in February, so that kind of took care of our meetings. But the minutes that you see will be from December, which was our last meeting, and they will be included in the YouTube, so you'll have it for your record. Our Safe Streets update for February includes information about reaching out to our neighbors. And we do have 143 neighborhood watches in Topeka and Shawnee County at the moment. The reason I said at the moment, we have had a new one last week, and they're just getting off the ground. Then I had another call the first of this week for a new neighborhood watch. So we hope to increase those very soon. course, some of them have postponed their meetings because of COVID, and they're just a little hesitant yet to get together. But they are beginning to schedule meetings in March and April. So we're looking forward to that. We do send out safety information, and you probably receive that each month from me. And that is put together because of calls that we receive at the office. So if they're talking about drug houses, then I might elaborate a little bit more about that. If they talk about identity theft, that might be included. So each month would be a different safety information for you. Because of the information that we send out, January and February, we contacted about over 6,000 people. And that's neighborhoods, it could be city council, it could be NIAs, it could be apartment complexes. So we're always glad to spread the word, and we're always there to help you as well. We do have people that call in or email, and that's on top of that 6,000. We had 502 people that called or emailed for service just in January and February. So we've been pretty busy at work. Now, that does not include any of the calls that we get for drug and alcohol evaluations. We do drug and alcohol evaluations for youth as well as adults. So if you know of anyone who needs our services, please give us a call. Also on our Facebook pages, I don't know how many of you are on our Facebook pages, but on the NNO, which is National Night Out, check it periodically because now we'll be putting information out there regarding our planning meetings. And our first planning meeting will be April 19th in this room at 6:30. Our National Night Out this year will be on August the 6th. That's a Saturday. We should have some information for you before too long, maybe about a kickoff party and your pickup day and all that. But right now, the first meeting that you need to remember is on April the 19th. We do have also services for our Latino group. Irene Caballero also meets with them, continues to meet with them, and she also has information presented on the Latino Facebook page. We're glad today to have with us from the Topeka Police Department, Sergeant Mike Burns, who will speak about our crime stats and discuss safety tips.
Thank you, Judy. Yeah, it's great to see everybody today. The weather's great, and I feel that hopefully this weather pattern can continue unlike last year. Before we get into the stats, which you'll see here, I do want to kind of go over briefly the 2021 stats. We do have the Chief of Police here, and he deserves a great deal of gratitude and thanks from the community because we were about 25% down overall crime in 2021. If you watch the national media, you see all these stories out there about how violent crime and things of that nature were just through the roof of a lot of major cities in the country, and they're having hard times tackling, and Chief led us to 25% reduction in overall crime. So I do believe he gets a great round of applause for just really sending us down the right path where we need to be. And that leads into 2022, and as we're seeing, we're continuing that trend with our violent crime is down almost across the board and everything, and that's great to see. We understand the trauma that can be inflicted on our victims, and the best thing we can do is have them not be a victim at all. So as those numbers continue to decline, we know that we're doing great work in the community. And as we go into the city property crime, we're seeing that down across the board as well. Those are a lot of time crimes of opportunity. We talked about people having their vehicles stolen, especially in the wintertime when we're leaving them running unattended. And those are just crimes of opportunity. So I think as we're pushing the narrative and the message out to the community, they're kind of doing a double take. Hey, can I wait a couple extra minutes and then get to my car before having it warm up in the wintertime? Are we looking around at our surroundings to make sure we're not being followed, as Sergeant Wilson and I constantly remind our community members of that. So for community events, Saturday, March 12th, there's 2 community events going on. We have our St. Patrick's Day Parade. It's great to have that back again, and it feels a little bit normal, and hopefully that'll go without a hitch. And then on that same day, the Special Olympics, Kansas having a basketball tournament at Washburn Rural High School and Middle School. I usually say it every single time I'm going to continue to preach. If you've never been involved or seen any Special Olympics event where we get all the athletes, it's one of the best things you can ever do in your life. To see the joy on their face, to see how happy they are, to be with friends, to be with their colleagues, and just to see us. They're so appreciative of just going out there, giving it all, but with their friends. You know, it really puts in perspective why we got into this job. So to see those smiles, I'm telling you, if you've never done it, you got to do it. Thank you.
Shawnee County Sheriff's Deputy Abigail Christian.
Thank you, Judy. Good afternoon, and thank you all for having Sheriff Hill and I back. It's been a few months, so we're glad to get back here and see you guys. We've got just a couple stats. I'm not going to stay on these too long because we do have a short video to show you at the end that kind of shows all of the great work that we did in 2021. So as you can see, just since 2018, the number of burglary and theft cases has gone down. I did want to touch base and remind people we did have an incident at the beginning of February. It was out in southwest Shawnee County. There were, I believe, 3 adults and 3 children at home late at night, close to 10 o'clock, when they received a knock on their back door. 3 adult individuals had come to the door and said their vehicle had broken down and asked for help, asked for someone to call and get them assistance. The homeowners tried to help them for a while, and when that didn't work, they said, I'm sorry, we cannot help you anymore, you need to leave, and they didn't like that answer. They pulled out their weapons, they had firearms, and they went inside the home. The family members were able to stay safe. Another family member came home and kind of interrupted that incident, and they were called 911, so our deputies were en route very quickly. Unfortunately, the suspects did get away before we were able to get there, so we just want to remind our citizens, keep your doors locked. Feel free to call 911 if you have someone that's asking for help. Let us help them. It's our job. It's what we do. We enjoy it. Thankfully, one of the suspects, the female in that case, was caught and arrested. However, we are still looking for the 2 males that were accompanying her. Next slide. Our methamphetamine arrests are up. Again, a lot of these come from car stops. You know, today and the rest of this week, school resource officers are out at our local high schools looking for seatbelt compliance. Something as simple as not wearing your seatbelt could lead to an arrest and getting illegal narcotics off our streets. The number of felons in possession of firearms has continued to rise as we try to get those illegal firearms out of the hands of those that have lost that privilege to have those. And I believe that next slide is going to be the same. We're going to keep doing the hard work we can in 2022. Thank you. Our Part 1 crimes, they're listed up there. It's a mix of several severe crimes, has gone down over the last couple of years, and we expect that trend to continue with the help of our community members for calling in suspicious activities and our proactive policing, getting our officers out there in those neighborhoods. Just a quick reminder, scams are still going on. They are so easy to do these days. A lot of them are on the phone. They're calling, they're saying they're the sheriff's office and you need to send them money or you need to send them gift cards. We very rarely call you to tell you you have a warrant. We actually have an online system. You can check that for yourself now. Or we'll come and knock on your door and you'll see it's us. We are not going to ask you to send us gift cards to Target or Amazon. Okay, so please help educate family members and friends that might fall victim to those cases. They are very, very hard to investigate. Nowadays, all it takes is a free app on your phone, and I can say I'm somewhere else across the world when I'm really right here. So it is hard to investigate. The best way to combat these is just hang up that phone. And again, like I said, we have been out for the past week, and we will continue to be out at local high schools. We've issued several citations, a lot of warnings, because Sheriff Hill, we're all out there just trying to educate all the young ones and their parents about the safety of seatbelts. They really do save lives. And lastly, we've got this about 2.5-minute video that just kind of recaps our 2021 year at the Sheriff's Office. "2021 has been another busy and productive year here at the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office. Burglary and theft cases continue to decrease as well. The number of individuals arrested in possession of methamphetamine has greatly increased. We continue to see a high number of felons in possession of firearms in Shawnee County. The Sheriff's Office drone program has successfully located multiple wanted suspects and missing individuals. The total number of registered offenders in Shawnee County has been increasing each year. Our fugitive warrant unit successfully served over 4,700 warrants. Our drug enforcement unit and interdiction team continue working hard to remove criminal activities and illegal narcotics from our community. Our canines were deployed over 360 times. In December of 2021, Sheriff Hill joined together with the Shawnee County District Attorney Mike Kagay, Topeka Police Chief Brian Wheelis, and multiple other agencies to form the Kaw Valley Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force.
The trafficking cases are harder to make, but that's what we want to focus on, and we intend on dismantling some of this organized trafficking and narcotics that's running through Shawnee County as well as these other jurisdictions.
Part 1 crimes are still trending downward. This decline is due to a combination of community awareness and prevention, proactive policing, and more. Sheriff Hill anticipates these types of crimes to continue to decrease with the partnership of our community and law enforcement. With the continued partnership between the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office and our community members, Sheriff Hill fully expects these trends to continue. Sheriff Hill is looking forward to continuing these efforts to combat crime and foster great relationships with our community. Sheriff Hill and all of us here at the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office are looking forward to 2022 with all of you. As you can see, we are doing a good job and trying our hardest to get crime levels down and illegal activity off our streets, but we also have fun while we do it. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Abigail. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Mayor Mike Padilla. Mayor Padilla will share the history of Safe Streets, past and current community-based experiences, and his goals and aspirations for the city of Topeka as the newly elected mayor. Mike served as the city councilman before seeking the mayor's seat. He's a second-generation Mexican-American and one of 5 sons to be born in Kansas. After attending Washburn University, Mike began a career with the Topeka Police Department. During his 34-year career, Mike became actively involved with numerous citizen groups and nonprofit organizations. Mike joined the Navy Reserve while he was with the police department. Community engagement has always been Mike's approach to problem solving, as a police officer and as an elected official. He became a widely recognized person at the table by the community. After retiring as a division commander major from the Topeka Police Department, he was appointed by Governor Sebelius as the chief enforcement for the Kansas Department of Revenue. At the Department of Revenue, Mike identified a need for improved compliance with both liquor and tobacco law enforcement. After serving 10.5 years and through 2 administrations, Mike then retired to run for elected office. Mike is the co-founder of Safe Streets. Safe Streets continues as a collaborative all-citizen volunteer group focused on neighborhood safety and quality of life initiatives. Mike has served on the Salvation Army Board and recently co-founded an after-school boxing program for boys and girls. The program, the Three Badges Boxing Club, serves as a largely Hispanic population and partners with the Topeka Police Department and the Topeka Fire Department. The program stresses responsibility, self-confidence, respect for others, and continuing education. Help me welcome Mayor Mike Padilla.
Thank you, Judy. I'm not used to standing behind these podiums. I like being a moving target. It's my law enforcement background. It's harder to hit that way. I can't get out of my mind a picture now of Tammy, our award recipient. When they talked about her throwing off her coat, I can see her doing that Superman thing and just running towards the lake to help out. I think that's highly commendable. It's just a pleasure to know that we have people in our community that are willing to act on something. You know, we say that see something, say something. Well, there's another component, and that's do something. And I think that's important that we have people like you and others in our community that continue to do that as they walk around, do their business in the city, have fun in the city. There's always somebody that is going to have a little bit of trouble, and if you can assist in helping them in that way, it's commendable. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to be here. I go way back, and I don't want to say how far back, but I can remember meeting our now Chief Brian Wheelis. I remember when he first came to the police department. His mom dropped him off at the front door, and no, I don't think we went back quite that far back, but he and I did serve together, and so did Sheriff Hill. We were standing over there just kind of reminiscing before we got started, and the common phrase we were using was, "Who to thunk it?" He's the sheriff, he's the chief of police, and I'm the mayor. And we all work together at one time or another in law enforcement. I think it speaks well of our community for these two gentlemen to be in leadership roles. I think it shows that we do have real talent in the city of Topeka, and that we're recognizing that and putting them in leadership positions. So I'm grateful to be here with them. Sergeant, soon to be lieutenant, since you complimented the chief, you're soon to be lieutenant. I appreciate him and Abigail for your information that you brought there. I want to recognize my friend, and I call her my friend, not just a fellow council member, Councilwoman Sylvia Ortiz, who's also here with us today. I see a lot of familiar faces, and of course, Nancy and Max, you're right at the heart of those things because you were with us there at the very beginning of Safe Streets. A long time ago when it was just an idea crafted by our mutual friend, Sally Zellers, and it was Sue Fackler, I think was her partner. When they got the idea and started working on it and took it to then Mayor Wagner, we kept pushing on it. And then a co-officer, then Sergeant Ron Brown, saw the advantages that we could have in our community by having Safe Streets present, along with Reverend Fulton. He was determined to bring Safe Streets to Topeka. I can remember taking a trip with him out west to Tacoma, Washington, to see it in action before we actually brought it to Topeka. The Reverend was a fun man to be with. We joked a lot and carried on. He would always give me his guidance from the scripture. And then every now and then he started to get a little carried away, and I would say something to him. Then he would look at me and say, "Thank you very much, Mike, for making me keep my feet on the ground and still look at what we want to accomplish." So that small group of people, with the help of Max and his position there at PARS, found a living space for Safe Streets. We had to have an organization that would be willing to take Safe Streets on. provide staffing, provide a location for us to have our offices, and be our partner in the community. And Max Wilson did a fantastic job during that time, and I am forever grateful for that. It goes back so many years that it really pleases me that we're still here, or you guys are still here, still working with Safe Streets. And it occurs to me that Safe Streets, I think, is why it has sustained and why it is still here, is that it has been adaptive to the needs of our community. It has developed programs that recognizes issues that citizens were dealing with. It's been adaptive in nature, much like law enforcement. It's not the same thing. I think about what it was like when I was a police officer in the 70s. It doesn't look anything like what it is now. And I'm pleased to say that law enforcement has embraced technology and embraced critical thinking and strategic planning. And that is at the core of what Safe Streets tries to do as well. It looks at the community. It doesn't say, this is our answer for you. They ask the community, what do you need? What will best impact your neighborhood? And that's the whole concept, the block by block concept of neighborhood. When we talk about neighborhood revitalization, it isn't just talking about homes and buildings. It's pride in your neighborhood. It's pride in your community. You don't feel like you're left out of the successes that our community is currently experiencing. That has to be there for everyone. And I think Safe Streets brings that message that you can be safe in your home, you can be productive citizens, and you can help your neighbor one at a time. I can think of all the ideas that came and went, and what we thought was a great idea, we'd sit back, and I had especially at the police department. When I was at the police department working with Safe Streets, my friend Sergeant Ron Brown and I would come up with this brilliant idea. We knew it was the answer to everything. But before we would take it anywhere, I'd get a hold of Sally and ask for a meeting. I'd say, okay, let's sit down. You look at our brilliant plan and find the holes in there. Find it from the perspective and the lens of a citizen. And she would do that for us. And I think that made us, I know it made us better policemen, and I know it made us better citizens in this community by having that different perspective, look at what we were trying to do with the community. That's always the thing that we have to remember. We're not doing it for them, but we're doing it with them. If they don't walk alongside us in the effort won't sustain. We have to have them walking with us on that. And I think that's why I have embraced so much community policing as a part of my career at the police department. The City of Topeka Police Department has experienced community policing in many forms. I first was exposed to it in, I think, 1971, FBI. And it doesn't look the same today. But that's how long community policing has been around. Some folks sometimes think it's a brand new idea, but it's not. It's just in a different form, and it's how you apply it to your community and its needs. And the police department has been at the heart of the success of Safe Streets. I don't know that you could separate the two and still have as much success as Safe Streets has enjoyed. The Sheriff's Department too. I know Sheriff Hill because of our relationship that we had at the police department. He and I worked together in the tactical unit for a while. He understands that there is no separation between city boundaries, city limits, and the county. I got to walk back now. And the county. Sometimes people get that idea in their head that well, it's the city's problem, it's not the county's problem. The city is in the county. If it were not for the city, the county would not have a lot of what it enjoys. So it's important that collaboration is strong. And with our two leaders at our law enforcement agencies right now, I see it stronger than I have ever seen it. And I've seen a lot of sheriffs come and go and a lot of chiefs come and go. I think under my time, there are at least 7 chiefs I saw come and go. And every time they had a different idea. And oftentimes that idea was their idea and not much room for flexibility, you know. When you're the man in charge, you want to be the man in charge. I don't see that in our two leaders now. I see them as being ready and helpful to each other. And that's what I appreciate about what they do for us. Safe Streets, I think, is the answer that I used to give all the time at meetings when people would say, well, we pay the police and the sheriff's department to do this job. There's nothing I can do as a private citizen. What can I do? You know, I don't have police training. I don't want to intervene in something that might be unsafe. What can I do? The Safe Streets idea is that citizen, grassroots-driven initiative, like Tammy did. Being aware of your surroundings, knowing that you have the capability to act in that sphere of comfort that you have. You know that if you make a phone call real quickly and keep an eye on something, hopefully law enforcement will get there in time. You know if you see somebody injured or hurt, you know you call for help, get it on the way, and then do what you can to help. I think those are the things that continue to make the city of Topeka strong and why some of these numbers are changing. You, as citizens of the city of Topeka, far outweigh the numbers of law enforcement they have available. They just cannot be everywhere. But we are everywhere in what we do every day. Going to work, shopping, going to basketball games, school events. We are everywhere. We are the eyes of the community, and we are the people who can help keep this community safer with our vigilance, our determination that we're not ready to accept anything less than the best for our community. So it is important for me to keep Safe Streets alive. I think, again, it is a time, Max, Judy, for a revisit with Safe Streets, and we did that back when I took office as council, of, again, adapting to our needs, reacting to our needs, being relevant to our community, inviting as many people as we can. And I've learned this a long time ago. An invitation isn't enough. When I was at the police department, and for a time, I was president of the FOP, the Fraternal Police Organization. And I can remember, and I think Brian and Chief will, well, Brian, it's the Bryans over there. I can remember we would have events that were going to be held out at the FOP. And it takes muscle, you know, to get things organized, people to come out, volunteer, set things up. People would put up flyers on the wall around the police department. We need volunteers for such and such date. I'd show up there and maybe 3 or 4 hardliners that I knew I could count on. When I started asking people personally, Max, will you meet me out there Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning to help me for about a couple hours? It was hard for Max to tell me no. And I did that on a regular basis. And that group of dependable workers kept growing and growing and growing. And it got to that point when they'd come to me and say, what's the FOP doing? I didn't have to go ask them. Let me know. I'll put it on my calendar. We'll be there to help you out. That's what Safe Streets does. We have to do more than invite. We need to engage. We need to talk to people as often as we can. I know that you spend a lot of time making those contacts, but it's important. Engagement has been the key to everything that I have tried to do in my life and career. It has to be a one-on-one. It has to be relationships building. And what Safe Streets does in the neighborhoods does that. It helps build relationships in the community. You can be in your neighborhood, and I know a lot of people can come in and out of their house, and they may or may not even get a wave from their neighbor because they don't know who it is. Take that opportunity to let them know who you are. You know, the old saying, to have a friend, you got to be a friend. So if you can do that on a regular basis, I think that communication and recognition of each other's needs and their conditions in the city will help us go a long way. I think about I was just speaking to Carla, my friend there, and the work that she does in conjunction with the MAP program that Topeka Rescue Mission has. That's a work that can't be done unless it's done by people who have a commitment to help others. And those are the opportunities in this community that are endless. When somebody asks me, where can I help? My first ask is, what are you interested in? Because I'm not going to put you somewhere you're not comfortable, but what are you interested in doing? And once they tell me, then I try to do as much as I can to make the connections. And then I'll follow up to see, would you guys get together? You talk about what you can do, how much time commitment it will take. And that, again, keeps growing that network. I'll keep doing that thing. Keeps growing that network of communication and relationship building. In law enforcement, sometimes we have a tendency, and not all of us, to stay in a circle of friendship that you're comfortable with. You know, we all do that, I think. But during my career, I really wanted to go outside of just that circle of friends at the police department. That's why I volunteered in so many civic organizations, because I saw an opportunity to help in a different way other than policing. But policing was my foot in the door. Everybody wants the policeman at their table to hear about what's going on and to get their buy-in for something they're trying to do. So it's easy to get in the door, but then you have to work. Then you have to put some meat on the bones. And that was the opportunities that I always saw by offering to volunteer. You know, in here, anybody who runs a nonprofit, volunteers, they're like gold if you can get them and keep them. And so it is important for us to see all the things that radiate from an organization like Safe Streets. It just is that encouraging energy. If you don't know who to call, how to get connected, Judy will get you connected. And if she can't, she'll give me a call and we'll do what we can to find those people who want to help in some small way. You don't have to give up hours and hours and hours. Maybe it's 1 or 2 days a week. That's enough if you stay with it. And I think all of that effort will help us continue to keep our crime down. I'm really proud of Topeka and the condition that it's in, not just with crime, but economically. We're doing really, really well. You hear a lot of naysayers who, things are just not happening the way they should. When Topeka continually gets on national lists and gets recognized for its housing, its strategy, all the different programs that have come to us through our partnership with the Greater Topeka Partnership, you know we're doing something right. Even before the pandemic, or just as it started, Topeka was nationally recognized as a community that would probably come out of the pandemic in a lot better shape than cities of similar size because of our diversity of manufacturing, financial, healthcare, all those different opportunities in our community that were necessary and would grow and would sustain. So we're on the right track. And I expect to see Safe Streets in Topeka stay hand in hand for a long time. So that's enough from me. I would like to answer any questions you might have. You can ask about the chief. I'll tell most of the... Don't be shy.
No questions? Well, I have one for you.
Okay.
How about that, Mayor? What are your aspirations for the city going forward?
Well, it's the same that I had as a councilman, and it's the same as I had really as a police officer. My aspirations are that everybody in this community shares in the success of Topeka. Growing up in Topeka, I'm well aware of this side of town, that side of town, the haves and have-nots, the access and non-access, or limited access. That's something we can all work on. And I have tried to be intentional about it in everything that I do. And my hopes are, and in fact, I'm taking a trip tomorrow with the city manager and others to go find out more information on how hopefully I can bring an Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity out of the mayor's office to the city of Topeka, to make sure that we're focused on that effort, that we don't just talk about it, that we're doing something, and look at how we live that philosophy in practical ways and not just talk about it. Because I think it's important that the city set a standard, that it does take care of itself first, and then hope that it encourages the rest of our community to bring that DEI to the focus of everything. I don't think that it's been released yet. Momentum 2027 has got their new strategy. And so I don't want to speak out of turn, but I can tell you right now, there are 4 quadrants of work and interest. And at the center of everything is equity. And equity is something that I am going to continue to work for in the city of Topeka. And so that's one of my big aspirations. The other is to do as much as I can to facilitate economic development across the city. I can tell you this much. Once the city council took the bold step to commit to over $2 million to get rid of an albatross, that I called it, on the city of Topeka, White Lakes, once we made that commitment to the public, resourceful and capable developers have been knocking on the door of Topeka to talk about what they can do with that property. And not just that property. There are others that are looking at areas around that area, that vicinity, to bring more development. I have talked to people about development in the east side of Topeka, North Topeka, and so it's spreading. I think the message that the council sent as a body, that we are changing Topeka for the positive, and we are willing to take that step forward that has been overdue for some time. So economic development is another thing. And then, of course, public safety. And that's why I still keep involved with, as much as I do, with law enforcement. It's important that law enforcement retains the trust of the community. And for my work on the council, the community of Topeka supports law enforcement. They know that they are necessary to the health of any community. And the health of the agencies is important, that they are upstanding, professional, and we have that here in the city of Topeka. It is important for me that public safety is experienced by everyone, even me. There's been times when I'm in bed and about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I hear gunshots going off, and it's kind of a rolling battle. They're not stopped. They're just going down the street. So I call it in, but by the time I know that officers wouldn't be able to be there. But I have to tell you that those kinds of incidents have really gone down now. Because I think because of the focus that the law enforcement has been doing on making those car stops that look like they aren't anything but a traffic ticket, but you just don't know what you're going to get into when you make that car stop. Might have been somebody who just left from a burglary. Might have been somebody who's transporting narcotics or armed with a firearm that they shouldn't have. So that contact that our law enforcement is making on a sustained effort and I think a coordinated effort with the Sheriff's Department. I mean, these operations that they have held with the District Attorney's Office and had these task force roundups, those are amazing. I don't know that I've seen that much cooperation between our law enforcement agencies in a long time. And our district attorney is right on board with you guys, and that makes a big difference. He and I right now are working to really bring a new program to Topeka. You may not have heard of it. It's called SAVE, which stands for Stop All Violence Everywhere. But it is an alternative justice approach to trying to break the cycle of those individuals in our community who continually show up for a car stop or a burglary or something. They repeat. And there are reasons they do that. This program seeks to break that cycle, to intervene by providing resources, counseling, oftentimes mental health, whatever it needs to let them see that there are other ways to live in our community, that they can be much more productive, safe, and get out of that cycle of life. So I'm really encouraged, again, like the district attorney has given the program director an office. He's partially funded it. Police department is working with them. They are the primary referral agency for that program. It's still in a fledgling state, but again, it's being adaptive, trying to think of things differently. Policing isn't just about driving around in a black and white and answering calls. There's much more to it, and that's why I say that law enforcement has evolved to recognize that need for its diverse approach to problem solving in law enforcement, and that is one of the third things that I really have an aspiration for, is to keep public safety at the forefront and focus on the public piece, not just the police, public police. Just like community policing, the front end of that is community. They are the first ones, if they believe and trust in the law enforcement agencies and work with them, a difference can be made. You're seeing it up here in these stats. The chief knows and the sheriff knows, neither of you are responsible personally for all of this. Because you can take the credit now, but if it goes downhill, you'll take the blame. Right? Been there. But working the way you do, you know they're trying hard. And that's what we need to continue to do. Okay, well, I think I've taken enough time, or
Yeah. Rick Felsberg with WIBW TV. You said you're going on a trip to help strengthen the community of Topeka tomorrow. Can you tell us where you're going?
Yeah, we're going to Kansas City. But again, what I'm doing is following up again on relationships, like I said about me. When I started to talk about creating an Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, I wanted to make sure before I took any real concrete steps that I really had looked at that kind of effort in practice to see how it really has affected a city and how it does business with the community. And a friend of mine that I used to actually do yoga with, believe it or not, she kept trying to get me to do that. What is that standing tree? And the best I could ever do was a wobbly bush, because I could not get my leg quite up that far up on my leg. So, but she worked here for the city of Topeka for a while and then moved to Kansas City. And she took on a job initially as an ombudsman for her city. And that job has morphed into something different altogether. And we have an ombudsman here in Topeka. That's something we had talked about while I was on council. But it still is morphing into what it needs to be. So the idea of maybe even combining the two concepts into an effort that is focused not as part of everything we do, like let's say, okay, human resources. Oftentimes that's where people will say, well, Human Resources takes care of that, DEI. I don't think that's enough. There has to be more of a focused saturation effort, as it were, for diversity, equity, inclusion. And sometimes that means you get somebody specifically, that's their job. That's their 100% job, and they interact with every department head and every line officer to make sure that that message is conveyed and that it's practiced. And so it sounds good in theory. I want to see it if it's working, and that's why we're taking the trip to see if, in fact, it is working. I'm getting the feeling it does because we got the invitation. Come down and see what it can do for you. So I'm looking forward to the trip.
I have a question regarding Jefferson Street that goes right into the view of the state capitol. Are there any plans at all to try to develop that? Because we're the capital city, and I think people forget that we are the capital city. And that is such a beautiful shot of that State House coming down Jefferson Street. Mm-hmm. And I just wondered, were there any plans at all to do anything with that, like some kind of a Capitol Plaza or something?
You know, at one time that conversation was being had both at the state and at the city level. I have not heard much about that since, but I agree with you. I've taken a number of photographs myself day and night because that is very picturesque. It makes sense to do something like that. I will tell you this, there are things, again, can only say so much. There are things in the works right now that could change that physical landscape considerably, and that could be a part of what we're looking at. Mm-hmm. I tell you, one thing I'll encourage you to do, keep an eye on White Lakes, okay? I told them I would start a parade in my car with horn honking, drive around the block, and then I asked them to give me a hammer and chisel, and I'll go up there and start knocking down the first brick. But they have already taken out all the asbestos, and I think they are, from the internal, already knocking down some of those walls. They preferred to start at the north end. They may have to start at the south end, but it is coming down. I know people keep saying, when is it happening? But it's, well, there's no date in that. As weather allows and stuff, that helps the work go faster. And hopefully, after seeing today, although somebody told me we're looking at snow on Sunday, I don't know. I'd say, I was commenting earlier when you look at the weather on TV, and you know the weatherman's up there and they're showing you the different temperatures for the day and next day. My wife and I, we said, you know, this looks like they're reading off the lottery numbers because it goes from 27, 45, 3, 68, you know. So it looks like it's a lottery call. But weather permitting, they're determined to get that work done. I wouldn't put a stake in the date, but I know that a conversation has been about June or July that thing will be down all the way. So, okay?
Do we have any more questions?
Well, thank you again. I appreciate the time to be here.
Thank you so much, Mayor Mike Padilla, for presenting to us today with all this good information. And thank you, everyone, for attending today. You will receive a YouTube link, as I indicated a while ago, and a survey. So if you don't have time today to fill in the survey, we would appreciate you doing that and returning it to me. And we do appreciate you coming every month, and we're always open for suggestions to make the meeting better. Thank you so much.